We are under $3 now, which is insane value for the quality of games here, including Ape Out, a top-down action smash 'em up in which you control a gorilla breaking free from a high-security facility by bashing your way through armed guards and barricades. Set across 4 jazz-inspired stages labelled as albums, you guide the ape through the levels, which are procedurally generated, but not quite a roguelite, insofar as it does not have a meta progression system. Rather, it's a test of reflexes as you punch enemies, grab guards to use as shields, and even turn their guns upon them, creating a violent ballet of destruction in the process. Every action syncs with a reactive percussion soundtrack that intensifies with your aggression and really is something to listen to, definitely having Hotline Miami DNA and is a work of art. The developer of Crawl is releasing a game soon in July 2025 named The Drifter, which is a point-and-click adventure game with a similar kind of pixel art which looks great. But first, let's look at this asymmetrical multiplayer brawler in which you play as either a hero exploring dark catacombs or a ghost controlling monsters and traps to stop the hero. You are exploring procedurally generated dungeons, supporting 4 players or bots in single player, as the hero seeks to reach level 10, enter a portal and kill the boss while the non-human players seek to kill said hero. However, upon the hero's death, the player that deals the finishing blow then becomes the hero, and round we go until the final encounter. The minute-to-minute action is great, being a challenge for the human player taking on 3 opponents, but then the tables get turned, which is part of the fun. There are standard RPG elements like loot, leveling, and upgrades, but is designed as a pick up and play, more arcadey kind of experience, designed for 30-minute sessions and is of course best with friends. Death Road to Canada is an older title which I still remember watching videos of on YouTube when it was released, being an early action roguelite but with a touch of the nonsensical despite the zombie apocalypse setting. It is a self-styled road trip survival RPG where you manage a ragtag group of characters on their journey to Canada. The survival aspect comes in the form of resource management with limited fuel, food and ammo to go around, which means you must stop to scavenge, which is when the zombies come. There is procedural generation of survivor appearance and personalities, even allowing you to create your own to resemble yourself or your friends and family, with co-op support that is a blast with friends as well. Of course, there are random events and critical decisions to make, with good pixel art as well, so $3 is a pretty good price for this. If you love match 3 titles but not the modern garbage on mobile, then Grindstone will be the game to get, in which you slash through floors of monsters to collect precious grindstones as part of your daily job. Each level presents a grid of coloured monsters, and you trace a line through the same coloured enemies to chain kills and fill up your meter while avoiding hazards like spikes, walls, or enemy reinforcements. Long chains earn grindstones, resulting in interesting tactical choices that need to be made, with a crafting system via blueprints discovered in levels as the meta progression layer. There are also boss fights which have special attributes which forces you to change strategy, and I hate how this didn't sell well on PC, perhaps since it was free on Epic, or maybe because it sold much better on other platforms, but vote with your wallet by buying this if you hate timers, energy systems, and microtransactions in your Match 3 games. One of my favourite roguelite RPGs is Errata's Lord of the Dead, primarily because you play as a scheming necromancer, one of my favourite classes in games, leading an undead army to enact your dark vengeance. Our protagonist was imprisoned by the humans many years ago, managing to get free, and is now seeking his revenge, literally assembling new units from the parts of fallen enemies to create an undead army. Combat here resembles Darkest Dungeon, being turn-based and where positioning matters, where certain attacks and abilities can only affect enemy units or your own which stand in certain spots, with abilities to manipulate disorder such as pulling weaker units from the back to the front. There are a bunch of progression systems, from crafting more powerful units with better quality skulls and bones, to permanent upgrades for erratas, research, a home base to upgrade and much more, and is one of the best games in this subgenre. A sleek aerial combat title is Jet Lancer, resembling the Vlambeer classic Luftrausers if anyone remembers that, but with a much higher pixel resolution and what feels like more of an anime influence. You pilot a high-speed jet to battle enemy aviators and towering mechanized threats, engaging in supersonic dogfights across a variety of locations. The tight flight controls with boost, barrel roll, and afterburner maneuvers feel awesome to master, where you're choosing between machine guns, missiles, lasers, and EMPs to match enemy types. You earn upgrade points to enhance weapons, survivability, or maneuverability, with plenty of challenge as well, allowing you to pull off cool tricks like cutting engines mid-air, which causes your jet to drop only to engage engines at the last minute to pull it out to reposition your plane, and just feels good to play. This next title might be not so indie, since Frontier Developments is quite a large studio and it uses the Jurassic Park or World IP, but yet Jurassic World Evolution 2 is an excellent dinosaur park tycoon game and is at an insane 95% discount, so get this if you were on the electric fence. You design, manage, and monitor a dinosaur theme park, having to make sure the enclosures are designed without weaknesses, otherwise the dinos will get out, snacking on a visitor or two before your team is able to tranquilize it and to put it down. It is a tycoon game at its core, so all the resource management aspects are required, having a campaign story mode as well as challenge, sandbox, and scenarios which explore what-if scenarios which diverge from the movies. So if you're a fan of the series or grew up with Zoo Tycoon like me, this will probably tickle your fancy. Japanese developer Pixel is best known for Cave Story, which apparently he got screwed over by the publisher, so if you love that game and want to show your support, perhaps get Carol Blaster as well. This is a 2D side-scrolling run-and-gun platformer where you play as a frog employee, battling strange creatures to restore malfunctioning teleporters. Set in a quirky universe, you navigate linear levels with tight platforming controls, using a variety of weapon upgrades from rapid-fire guns to charge blasts to combat enemies. It has fun platforming and some secrets in the level design, and while linear, there is replayability here in New Game Plus, as well as a separate expanded campaign which unlocks once you beat the game, being more than meets the eye. Another blast from the past is UFO Unidentified Falling Objects, since if you have been around indie games, you might have come across Super Puzzle Platformer Deluxe from 2013, and this is indeed from the same developer and is an arcadey action puzzle platformer where you dodge falling blocks, enemies, and projectiles while kicking and rearranging blocks to form large groups, after which you shoot at them with your blaster to clear the lot. It's kind of like Puzzle Fighter, but where you are in the play area with a variety of upgrades and even different weapons varying in power and fire rate. Levels escalate in difficulty over time, and it's a high score chase kind of experience, but you are also unlocking new stuff in the hub area which keeps you coming back, where perhaps $15 was too much, so 80% discount at $3 might just tempt you to get this. Developer Red Black Spade has carved out an interesting niche for themselves in the Metroidvania space, making interestingly themed titles even if they're not as smooth as the Hollow Knights of the world. One example of which is Fearmonium, where you play as an unpleasant memory within the inner mind of a boy named Max, created after he saw some clowns at a fair attempting to find a way to become a full-blown phobia by supplanting all other fears. Explore surreal, hand-drawn zones, not quite Cuphead, but it's in that general vicinity, each themed around clowns or abandonment, unlocking Metroidvania-style traversal abilities like dash and double jump, as well as combat moves with your mallet. All the core Metroidvania-style design elements are present, such as backtracking and using these abilities to get to new areas, but the theme and setting is certainly unique, being a very curious $2.98 as well, due to a 77% discount. Armed with Wings Rearmed is a stylish 2D action platformer in which you wield both samurai steel and an eagle to conquer lethal terrain and supernatural foes. Set in the dark realm of Black Mist, you play as a resurrected warrior bound by divine purpose, tasked with toppling an oppressive tyrant and navigating treacherous landscapes. The fluid combo-based sword combat with strategic aerial attacks is the highlight, wielding the power of lightning as you strike and dodge, while also using your ego to scout, distract foes and solve environmental puzzles. Weapon upgrades and relics provides progression over the course of the game, with the handcrafted levels providing plenty of challenge and variety, along with a sick monochrome art style. And if you were complaining about too many roguelite platformers, this is one to try. Another game featured in the deep discount section that is too good not to get is Blasphemous, coming in at a stunning 90% discount. Play as the Penitent One, a silent warrior on a pilgrimage through a grotesque, unforgiving land to atone and break a curse caused by something known as the Miracle, a divine force that corrupts and mutates. The world of Custodia is harsh and unforgiving, drawing upon the Catholic faith as well as the brutality of the Crusades, and also the history of Spain, in which the developers are based. Explore shrines, cathedrals, and catacombs filled with twisted religious iconography and relentless enemies, executing brutal combos and punishing execution moves. There is a skill tree for progression which unlocks new abilities, along with intense, almost Souls-like boss encounters, with deep lore and plenty of secrets as well. While there is a sequel, I still lean towards the original, so if you do not own this, do yourself a favor and pick this up. I like to pick some unconventional titles for my Steam sale videos, otherwise it will just be Hollow Knight, Stardew Valley, Undertale, Terraria and more, so enter Pharaoh Rebirth Plus, an older action platformer with some Metroidvania elements from 2016. Where you play as Jonathan, an anthropomorphic rabbit explorer traversing through Egyptian temples to collect grails in order to break an ancient curse. It has all the action platforming goodness, but certain areas are gated by gear and abilities, so you can revisit the linear levels to get new stuff, with a bunch of upgrades, loot, gear and relics, as well as intense combat. The developer of this, Krobon Station, later joined Team Ladybug, known for games like Touhou Lunar Nights and Delit in Wonder Labyrinth, where you can see the lineage between this game and those, especially with the pixel art, so $250 is a decent price to check out this older game. One of the biggest successes in the indie first-person shooter space in recent memory is Severed Steel, an insanely fast-paced title where you play as a one-armed operative defying a corrupt mega corporation through frantic, parkour-enabled combat in destructible environments. Maintain your momentum through wall runs, slides, dives, and acrobatic flips as you zip around the level shooting at enemies, and I suppose as a curious design quirk, given that you only have one arm, you are unable to reload and must grab new guns from enemies. There is bullet time, so you're able to pull off sick moves with accuracy, being able to, for example, do a 360-degree no-scope headshot, but where the 360 involves rolling forward instead of spinning around, with a large variety of weapons, each with excellent feedback and just feels powerful, so 90% off is an insane discount as well. One of the hidden gems of 2020 is Ita, a bullet hell boss rush action-adventure game where you wield a revolver and together with a mysterious, ghostly cat companion must take on challenging bosses. It is all boss fights, but they are linked through an overworld, giving you some degree of choice on which to tackle next, having to learn attack patterns, dodge and counter as required. You can switch to different weapons which might be better suited to certain bosses, with upgrades to discover as well, so if you are up for a challenge, this is one to get. A relatively underrated title is Kaze and the Wild Masks, a 2D action platformer with some Sonic or Donkey Kong Country influence, in which you play as a rabbit on a quest to save a friend from living vegetables, using the power of ancient animal masks in order to do so. The wild masks of tiger, eagle, lizard and shark grant unique traversal abilities like wall climbing, gliding, burrowing, and swimming, which you need to master to clear the platforming challenges. Platforming is key, with some light combat elements along with collectibles, time trials, and even boss fights, all wrapped up with an awesome pixel art style, so less than $3 is a great deal for this. An underrated deck building RPG worth a look is Aces and Adventures, one which, admittedly, isn't much to look at, but this combines poker mechanics with ability cards in their combat system, which is worth a try. There are 13 fully voiced campaigns here, in addition to procedurally generated runs, with the former being appealing if you want a break from roguelites. It is not quite Balatro since it doesn't have that scoring system, but using poker hands to deal damage in regular card-based combat is interesting to wrap your head around. You do also have 5 characters to choose from, each of which plays uniquely and have different core strategies and approaches, and is for fans of the genre. Once upon a time, the idle game was the hot new thing, from clicker heroes to adventure capitalist, which then petered out but saw a spike in interest in 2018 with Dragon Cliff, a semi-idle RPG where you assemble a team of heroes who battle monsters, explore dungeons, and gather gear for progression. You recruit adventurers from 25 different classes, assign them gear, form a party, and then send them into procedurally generated dungeons to fight, level up, and earn resources even while the game is closed. Optimizing and automating this incremental process is thus at the core of the experience, with strategic builds to craft skill trees, 100 different active and passive skills, hundreds of different types of equipment, an effect system, enchantment system, gems, reforging, and much more. So while it has a relatively simple pixel art visual style, don't let that fool you, since there are deep systems at play here and it's worth a shot for $2. A very interesting release is Evoland, one that looks like a Zelda-style action-adventure title, but then it adds in turn-based JRPG combat, and in fact, is more of a history lesson than a video game itself. Don't get me wrong, it's a fine game on its own, but the appeal of this is how they are showing you video game history, of the changes in art style and influences over time which are woven into the game itself, where I myself am partial to the almost Final Fantasy VII looking parts of this game. There is a sequel as well as a compilation of both, named Evoland Legendary Edition, but if you just want to dip your toe into this, Evoland 1 is definitely worth a try at this price. Next to Jurassic World Evolution 2 and Blasphemous, Fury is also part of the deep discounts page, coming in at 90% off, and is an intense bullet hell boss rush action game which simply oozes style. This is a sequence of one-on-one boss battles, blending twin-stick shooting action and hack-and-slash combat. The arenas themselves are unique and fit with the boss, with each, of course, having multiple phases which amp up the challenge as you go along. You have to dodge bullet hell-like projectiles, parry and counter, masterfully weaving between attacks if you want to be successful. The boss designs are cool as well, requiring both brains and reflexes to beat, and is a must-play if you love action games. I'm not quite sure what happened to Japanese indie game developer Easy Game Station, so if anyone knows, please leave it in the comments. But the important thing, for our purposes, is that they made Recettear an items shop's tale. A shopkeeping simulation mixed with an action-adventure title whose influence you can probably see on games like Moonlighter. Our heroine has to take over an item shop after her father disappeared, also inheriting a massive loan which she needs to pay off. You get the goods to sell by delving into dungeons with a companion adventurer, battling enemies to get loot, or you could go the merchant route by buying low, holding onto the stock, and selling high. You have to haggle with your customers to maximize profits, while also being able to design and customize the shop, which will have an effect on profits. If you run out of money, there's a game over screen and you have to reload the save, being kind of old school in that sense, but this is a classic that still holds up, so get it if you have not. Developer D-Pad Studio is known for their pixel art, best known for Our Boy at this point in time, but their earlier title, Savant Ascent, is fun, which they revisited with the remix version in 2023. This is essentially a shoot 'em up where you play as an acrobatic wizard moving up a tower on an elevator, blasting away at robotic enemies along the way. You can move from lift to lift or platform to platform, but don't exactly have platforming or even free move shoot 'em up controls, resulting in quite a unique feeling title as you attempt to avoid enemies and projectiles, having their signature gorgeous pixel art as well. Developer Zeboyd Entertainment has made some of my favourite JRPGs, one of which is Cthulhu Saves Christmas, the prequel to Cthulhu Saves the World, but released in 2019, so it looks a little bit more modern as compared to the 8-bit inspiration of the other game. While not quite the season for it, you play as Cthulhu having to save Santa Claus from the League of Christmas Evil, conveniently losing your powers so that you start from level 1 in this JRPG. You recruit characters like the Snow Maiden and Baba Yaga-chan, a chibi version of the Crone, as they take on holiday-themed enemies with character combos and special abilities to use in combat. Between battles, you manage relationships using dating sim mechanics to strengthen your bond with your party members, having their trademark humor in the writing, which is great, not forgetting the pixel art as well, and is a fantastic game. A newer release is Trouble Juice, a side-scrolling roguelite platformer which locks you into an arena as you move from side to side, only allowing you to progress after all enemies are defeated. You are competing in an interplanetary TV show, having to defeat all enemies in order to win the tournament. Choose a unique character and battle your way through waves of enemies, with juice-themed power-ups which upgrades your gun, mobility, health and more, or you can just shoot the vendor or juice guy as well. Being rather weird and at 75% discount of a base price of $5 gives this even more appeal. Speaking of weird and interesting roguelites, Snake RX looks like Snake, but you're not just moving in 4 directions, instead having a more natural snake-like movement where each segment of your body represents a hero and you are using them to destroy oncoming enemies. Sure, it is very minimalist visually, but don't let that fool you since this is a standout roguelite, so at about $1, this is a no-brainer pick. Watch this video for more of the best indie games.